Ready to go. There we go. Okay. So whenever we go to change someone's voice in any way, I don't care what we're trying to do, make it stronger, make it deeper, slow them down, improve the tone, we always end up working with three main things, skill sets, if you will. One of those is relaxation, because physical tension is always going to make you prone to speaking faster. It's going to affect the tone of your voice, making it more shallow, more edgy, more harsh. Relaxation is a big part of voice training. Second thing we're always working on is breathing, because the quality of your voice will always be a reflection of the quality of your breath. So if the breath you're taking is small and quick and shallow, then the speech that comes out will be small and quick and shallow. If the breath that goes in is deep and full and relaxed, then the speech coming out will be deep and full and relaxed. Connection is that direct. And then the third thing we're always working on is resonance. Resonance has to do with how you give your voice fullness and richness and smoothness without feeling like you're faking it or putting on some voice that isn't you. No matter what coach you work with or what method they're using, sooner or later, I think you've got to deal with those three things: relaxation, breathing, resonance. What I want to communicate early in our conversation is that voice and speech training is a surprisingly physical process. I think a lot of people, when they think of speaking, they think of words and sentences, and maybe they assume that the training will involve, reading something out loud for me or giving a presentation. That's really a very small part of the training. It's a lot more like signing up for an exercise class that is connected to sound in some way. In a typical lesson, you take your shoes off, you stand for most of the lesson, you do a lot of stretching and breathing and relaxing, and yes, we're making sounds because this is about how you speak, but the speaking is actually the end result. It's a final product. The real skills that you're trying to learn and the real habits that you're trying to change are more basic even than speaking, and they're quite physical. What kind of physical activities do you tend to enjoy on your own?
Enjoy is a pretty loaded word, I guess.
If you're going to do something, what kind of activity do you tend to do? Do you go to the gym?
Yes.
Do you walk? Do you?
I mostly go to the gym.
Mostly go to the gym. And at the gym, you do cardio and strength training, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. So those are pretty energetic kinds of activities. I'm wondering, would you be okay with an approach that isn't a lot of fast-moving, sexy activity? It's a lot of just sort of quiet, gentle, stretching kinds of activity. Is that something that you could tolerate, or would that be just too slow-moving and make you crazy?
I am fine with whatever gets results. I'm not about what I enjoy. I'm about what improves me as a person.
All right. All right. That's good to hear then. Let's talk about improvement. Obviously, everyone wants to make progress as quickly as possible, but you also know that you've been speaking from a pretty young age, maybe 18 months old, something like that.
Old habits are hard.
That's right. The habits that govern your speech are pretty deeply ingrained. They're not going to go away in a week, probably not even in a month. But I've done this for a long time, and I've worked with a whole lot of people. And while everyone is different, there is sort of a general pattern that I've noticed over the years in terms of how quickly people see progress. You should notice an improvement within the first month, at least during your lessons or when you're practicing on your own. At the 1 month stage, you probably will not notice a difference in your everyday conversations. because at that early stage, it would just take too much concentration to apply your new skills, and it would be too distracting. But if you're not focused on anything else, just doing your lesson, doing your practice, at 1 month, we should notice the difference. At the 3-month stage, and definitely by 6 months, then I would hope that you're starting to apply your new skills in real life situations, at least for brief periods of time, and it shouldn't be too distracting. Now, even at that stage, you'll notice yourself going back to your old habits as soon as you're not thinking about it, or when you're tired, or just hanging out with your friends. But when you really want to be on your game, when you want to be at your best, at 3 to 6 months, you should be able to make it work for you. And then I would say at the 9 to 12 month mark, then I would hope to hear a difference in your everyday voice, even when you're not thinking about it too much.
What kind of lesson frequency are we talking about? Are we talking about like a lesson bi-weekly and then training for the weeks in between? Or
the way I set it up, it's roughly weekly.
okay.
So I recommend that you allow at least 4 days between your lessons and no more than 10 days between your lessons. And that gives you some time to practice the skills you learned, because the next lesson typically builds on what happened before. So weekly-ish.
Okay.
All right. So if you're okay with that sort of gradual, more long-term process, then let's do some assessment and see what happens.
Go ahead.
Do you have a copy of Love and Will close by there? Great. I'll have you stand and read that for me, please.
Okay. I think I might have to adjust my camera slightly, so just let me know. I think I might have to adjust it again. Is this
it's
good
enough for now. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, just read this as you would normally speak. I just want to hear the sound of your voice on a Thursday. That's all we're going for right now.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'll try to be as natural as possible.
Thank you.
Bearing in mind that sometimes when I read, I switch around my emphasis based on the punctuation.
Okay.
Okay. Love and Will. During the long summers in New Hampshire, I would often get up early in the morning and go out on my patio where the valley, stretching off to the mountain ranges in the north and east, was silver with pre-dawn mist. The birds' eloquent voices in an otherwise silent world had already begun their hallelujah chorus to welcome in the new day. The song sparrow sings with an enthusiasm which rocks him almost off his perch atop the apple tree, and the goldfinch chimes in with his obligato. The thrush in the woods is so full of song he can't contain himself. The woodpecker beats on the hollow beech tree. The loons over the lake erupt with their plaintive and tormented cry to save the whole thing from being too sweet. Then the sun comes up over the mountain range, revealing an incredibly green New Hampshire, overflowing through the whole long valley with a richness that is almost too abundant. The trees seem to have grown several inches overnight, and the meadow is bursting with a million brown-eyed Susans.
All right, thank you. You can have a seat again if you like.
Thank you.
Now I have some questions for you.
Okay. And I feel like I have to readjust my camera.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. This is going to be part of the physical process, I guess.
Going to have you up and down a couple of times today.
That's okay.
Lots of people notice that certain parts of their body get tense really easily. What have you observed in your own case? Where do you tend to notice muscle tension on a regular basis?
My throat. I like, that's the most conscious area. Okay. I'm still feeling the after effects right now. It's funny that you brought up the gym because I noticed something. I believe a couple of years ago, I wasn't aware of the practice of breathing in through my own mouth. But as of recently, I believe about 2 years ago, when I got used to breathing through my mouth, that's all I can do anymore. And I noticed that when I'm at the dentist, whenever they're working on my mouth, I can't breathe in through my nose. So I feel like I'm constantly having to take in huge gulps of air. So I'm unable to both enunciate and breathe simultaneously. So I feel like I have to time my phrasings and my sentences to coincide with my breathing.
Okay.
Hence my rapidness. I believe like my rapidness is fundamentally rooted in two issues. First of all, I need to get out as much phrasing as possible in between breaths so as not to be too visibly. And secondly, I think this is a more of a psychological issue. Ever since my youth, I've noticed that, again, I believe I mentioned this before. People don't like hearing me talk, and I talk a lot. I have a lot to say. So I try to burn through it as quickly as possible. So both of those issues have kind of contributed to the way I talk right now.
Mhm.
So I would say I feel the tension right in this segment.
All right. Any other areas like your back, shoulders, neck, areas like that get tense?
I didn't notice immediately.
Okay. All right. Now, when you're speaking for longer periods of time, can you describe any discomfort you feel with your voice in terms of soreness, throat clearing, scratchiness, anything like that?
Um, I believe the gasps become more prominent, and I believe you're right. The roughness becomes more prominent as well, and I tend to
Okay.
compensate for it without taking breaks by increasing my volume.
Okay.
But again, by increasing my volume, I don't think it actually changes the roughness.
Okay.
If anything, it just makes it more pronounced. So it's just
This,
like a vicious positive feedback loop where
yeah.
every remedial effect I attempt just makes the phenomena seem worse. I'm
Okay.
not sure if I can describe it adequately. I think you'd have
All right.
see it. I make a very right now in my life I make a very conscious effort not to increase my volume because I know that it leads to a substandard quality of voice. Instead, what I do is I approach people and I keep a consistently low tone of voice because I know that in my case, lower means clear for some reason, or like
Mm.
lower means non-amplified roughness, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Okay. Is there any soreness or hoarseness or tightness that you feel?
I don't know. I feel like I'm always hoarse. I mean,
Okay.
I don't feel that I'm hoarse, but I like right now my voice. I feel like people whenever they talk to me, they feel like I am always hoarse.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Maybe I like the proper terms to describe it.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Um, do people ask you to repeat yourself?
Yes, yes, yes.
If you had to choose between these four options in general, would you say it happens constantly, once a day, frequently, or just occasionally?
Constantly.
Constantly.
By the way, that scale was inconsistent.
Okay. It's good. It's good enough for me.
I'm sorry.
And when you when people are asking you to repeat yourself, what do you think is causing that lack of clarity, just in your own experience?
I think it's a combination of uh, syllable mispronunciation
Okay.
and rapidness.
Okay.
Like yesterday, I was on the phone with someone and he asked me for my last name and I said Hafiz and he thought I said Hoffman. And even when I attempted to spell it, like each of the letters individually, it still wasn't enough.
Okay.
I had to do the whole army slang thing.
Right. Are there any physical issues that I should know about before I have you doing gentle stretching kinds of exercises?
None that are relevant. I used to have a broken back, but that's long in the past, as you can see.
Okay. Right. What I'd like to do now is take you through a few exercises that will help me see what kinds of things might start making a difference for you. What we do today is going to be very similar to what would happen in your first lesson. So it'll be quite simple.
Mhm.
And while I'm doing the assessment, you can get a feel for what a typical lesson involves. So if you don't particularly like what we do today, I would say don't sign up for the training because it'll just be a whole lot more of that. Also, today is an experiment. Even I don't know what's going to happen. So there's no pressure to get it right. Just relax, try to have a good time. Today, we're just going to see what happens.
Okay,
I'll have you back on your feet.
thank you.
If you'll stand again, please.
Okay. By the way, I just wanted to note one more thing. Um, my tone of voice isn't generally this low. For some reason, this microphone has a very low volume. So,
Okay.
like, take that for what it's worth. It doesn't
Right.
have a very high boost. I actually set the
Okay.
boost all the way up.
Okay.
Here we go again.
I'd like you to start by positioning your feet perhaps about 15 centimeters apart, certainly no more than 20. We don't want a wide
Is it
shoulder width. We don't want an athletic shoulder width stance. We want something more neutral than that. If you look down, your legs should appear to be parallel. Close your eyes for a moment and notice where you feel the weight in your feet. Does it tend to be on your heels? Does it tend to be on the front of your feet?
on the inner arches?
All
I
right.
feel it on the inner arches.
Okay. And how are your knees? Do you tend to keep your knees all the way back and fairly stiff, or do you tend to keep them softened and slightly bent?
Soft and slightly bent
All
forward.
right. All right. So, if your knees are already softened, I want you to ask yourself, well, how would it feel to stand on my whole foot, not just the inner arches, but how would it feel to use my whole foot?
I'd
And
feel a lot less tension in my core.
all right. So that's actually pretty important. So I want you to, as much as it's possible this morning, just keep your weight distributed across your whole foot and not just in one place.
So
Now do
I
this
had to
for
widen
me.
my stance.
Okay. Now I'd like you to let your head roll forward and continue rolling forward and downward as though you were eventually going to touch your toes. So keep rolling forward and downward, rolling forward and downward as though you were going to go down and touch your toes. But you don't need to reach or stretch. Keep rolling forward and downward. You're just going as far down as it feels comfortable. Hopefully your headset won't fall off. Can you go any further down than that?
But now I have to bend my back, not just my head. Is that okay?
That's correct. Yes. As far down as you can go comfortably.
This is as far as I can go.
Okay. Hanging head downward there. I'd like you to take a breath and just breathe some tension out of your body. And as you exhale, I want you to notice what happens to your body when you do that. Let's do it again. Breathe in and let go. What happens physically as you let go of your breath? What do you notice?
Nothing really. My stomach tensed up and then relaxed.
All right. So if you feel your body relaxing a little bit more, that's great. Let's do it one more time. Breathe in and let go. And then slowly unroll back to an upright position without lifting your head or tensing your neck or controlling your arms and shoulders. Just unrolling like a rug. When you're upright again, take a moment, notice what you feel. How's your body different now compared to the way it was feeling before you did that?
My abdomen aches a bit.
Aches. Okay. Is that just from being bent over?
I would think so, yes. Like
Okay.
the act of breathing only like temporarily exacerbated the abdominal pain.
Hmm. All right. I don't want you to be in pain.
But that's okay, don't worry about it.
Um, let's do it again. And this time, as your head comes forward, I want you to consciously relax the back of your neck. And then I want you to relax your shoulders and arms. As you continue rolling down, relax your upper back. Relax your middle back. As you continue rolling forward, relax your lower back.
Do I keep my knees bent or loose?
Yes, knees stay nice and soft and slightly bent. Okay, good for you. This time I'd like you to take a breath and try the sound, hey. Now actually say the word for me, hey.
Hey.
As you release that sound, see if your body can relax a bit more, just like it was doing earlier. Try the same thing with ho
Oh.
and how.
How.
Unroll back to an upright position. Keep your head heavy. Keep your arms heavy. Keep your knees relaxed. All right. Again, take a moment. Notice what you feel. Now what's different?
Well, I didn't feel any pain at all compared to last time
Okay.
because I get my knees bent. Like when my knees were
All
stiff the
right.
last time, I believe that's what
Okay.
caused tension in my abdomen.
All right.
I felt very significant reverberation in the bottom front of my throat.
Okay. Are you still standing on your whole foot?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. So take love and will again. And I'd like you to start at the top and read a few lines for me. But this time, try not to focus on the words. They're not important. What I want you focused on is this feeling of being on your whole foot, this feeling of having softened knees, this sense of relaxation in your body and reverberation, almost as though you're speaking with the same feeling you got while you were hanging upside down. That's what I want you practicing or focused on. Go ahead.
I'm not sure how I can conjure up a sensation of relaxation, but okay. Um, During the long summers in New Hampshire, I would often get up early in the morning and go out on my patio, where the valley, stretching off to the mountain ranges in the north and east, was silver with pre-dawn mist. The birds' eloquent voices in an otherwise silent world had already begun their hallelujah chorus to welcome in the new day. The song sparrow sings with an enthusiasm which rocks him almost off his perch atop the apple tree, and the goldfinch chimes in with his obligato. The
All right,
thrush in
let's
the
pause there. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but let's pause there. Now, when you're focusing on those physical things, what do you sense changing about the way that you're speaking? What did you feel?
well, first of all, what I didn't know precisely what I need to do to have less tension, but I figured I'd put less stress on myself. That meant pronouncing less rapidly and not trying to get through as much as often. So
Okay.
I would take more frequent breaths and I would pronounce less frequently.
Okay.
So that's
All
the
right.
most significant thing. And I didn't feel any tension either in my stomach or my throat.
All right. So your speech slowed down a little bit
Yes,
and you felt a little calmer and a little bit more sense of control over what you were
yes,
doing.
yes,
All right. Good. Now think about this. You weren't trying to make that happen. Hopefully, you were just trying to feel your feet on the ground and keep those knees relaxed and keep that sense of relaxation you were noticing in your stomach and throat. And those things started to happen automatically.
I mean,
That's
to be fair, I know what triggers it. Like, the more I calm down my speech, the more calm I am in general. So
all right.
I feel
Well,
that's a bit of cheating.
what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that you don't have to think about the outcome. You have to focus on the physical conditions that you're setting up behind it.
Okay,
And then the outcomes will be a very natural, authentic thing.
okay.
All right, let's look at breathing. When you were reading for me the first time, what I noticed about your breath, you pointed out how infrequently you were pausing to breathe. First thing I noticed about your breath was that it's fairly high in your body and very quick and small. When you're breathing up here, you're getting about 1/5 of the breath that you could be getting.
You want
Now
me to breathe in through my diaphragm?
think about what I said. I didn't say you're getting half the breath you could be getting, or even a fourth, 1/5, right? If speech is powered by breath and you're starting with only 1/5, there is just no power there to make that happen. And I think it's safe to say, as you've observed, a very reduced impact on your listeners, because with 1/5 of the breath, you just don't have anything to put out there in the room. You might be making noises and pronouncing words, but you're really not putting anything out there in the room with 1/5 of the breath. Also, if there's not enough breath flowing through the pipe, then there's just nothing to keep the vocal folds vibrating consistently. So they start to get wonky and we start to get that vocal fry, that sizzling quality in the tone of your voice. Now, I'm not going to change the way you breathe today, but let's experiment with what might happen if we start using a little more breath to produce the sound. So grab Love and Will again.
Yep.
Now, the first thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take a mouth breath and just try the word so, just like that.
So,
Now you're holding the breath inside.
yes.
I want you to see if you can use all the breath on that one word, so. So get rid of it.
So,
Okay? And now I want you to see if you can make your voice a little bit higher than what feels normal to you. So instead of so down here, I want you to make your voice like a sliding board. So, sort of glide downward.
so,
There we go. Try full, Full.
oh,
Keep it coming forward. Song.
song,
Now let's try the phrase so full. One breath, 2 words.
so full,
So full of song.
so full of song.
All right. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take a breath through your mouth. And I want you to take at least 2 seconds to inhale. I want a very noticeable, relaxed in-breath. And then I want you to use that breath to speak a short phrase of only 6 to 8 words, certainly no more than 10. Less is better. Get rid of that breath on as few words as possible. Okay, let's start with the mouth breath.
During the long summers in New Hampshire, I would often get up early.
Okay, now it doesn't have to be a big in-breath. When I said a long in-breath, I just meant you're taking your time to breathe in. But just work with medium breaths. Big in-breaths are going to make you tense. So just medium breaths, short phrases. Keep going.
During the long summers in New Hampshire, I would often get up early in the morning and go out on my patio.
Okay, keep going. Mouth breath. Next phrase.
Where the valley stretching off to the mountain ranges in the north and east, was silver with pre-dawn mist.
Breathe in. Next phrase.
The birds' eloquent voices in an otherwise silent world had already begun their hallelujah chorus.
Now let's try this. Breathe in and just go, hey.
Hey,
More breath coming out. Ho.
ho,
Can you make that sliding board effect again? Ho.
ho,
Okay. Hi.
hi.
Let's try that phrase. The thrush in the woods. Halfway down.
The thrush in the woods
Start a little higher if you can. Is so full of song.
is so full of song,
Do that again. Make sure you breathe in.
is so full of song.
He can't contain himself.
He can't contain himself.
Okay. Keep going in that fashion, trying to use up as much breath on as few words as possible. Go ahead.
He can't contain himself.
Mouth breath.
He can't contain himself.
Go to the next phrase. Just keep working your way through the text.
The woodpecker beats on the hollow beech tree.
Good. Lots of breath.
The loons over the lake erupt with their plaintive and tormented cry to save the whole thing from being too sweet.
Let's pause there. Now, I realize this feels very awkward and we have big pauses all over the place, but I don't really care about that. When you were able to take a relaxed in-breath and just use that breath completely on a short phrase, what did you sense changing about the way it felt to speak?
I would think, I don't know, I think each word comes out more clear. I can't ascertain that for myself. But I feel like there's more emphasis on the particular word. It feels like I'm really enunciating each and every single word. That's what I feel.
Would it make sense that if you have more wind power, the sounds you produce are probably going to be a bit stronger? Would that at least make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Would it make sense that if there's more breath flowing through your vocal folds, that the vibration is probably going to be smoother than if there's no breath flowing through the vocal folds?
Or at least more prominent, yes.
Okay. All right. I think I noticed that happening to a certain extent. So I would have liked to have produced an even greater effect, but I think we did see that it was making some difference there. My sense right now is that this is not just going to be a technical challenge for you, it's going to be a psychological challenge for you as well. That you're so used to keeping your voice held back here that it's very difficult for you to just let go and blah, put the sound out there in the room.
Actually, what I've been trying to do is I can't control where the voice goes within my throat. So I actually manipulate the placement of my tongue and the formation of my lips.
Okay. So, and that actually is counterproductive.
I apologize.
Right? It's all right. It's the strategies that you've used up until now to cope, right? So no one's going to criticize that. But I think what we learn as we go along in life is that sometimes those coping strategies end up getting in the way instead of helping us get by. And I think we can give you some more effective techniques.
Okay.
So one of our challenges in training will be to get you to give yourself permission to make a sound and just not get in the way of it. That's going to take some ingenuity, I think. All right, third thing. Because there's no breath powering your voice, then the muscles here tend to tense up, close the channel. And then what we end up with is the voice that's just from here up, and we lose the voice that's from here down. We get a voice that's very much trapped in the throat.
I keep hearing this phrase, breathe in from your diaphragm, breathe in from your diaphragm, but I'm not sure what that is.
I know. See, I think you're living proof that that kind of advice is very confusing for someone, for the average person. So in the first month of training, I don't even talk about the diaphragm. Not that it's not important, but we try to get the diaphragm working without actually using that term and focusing on it too much.
I believe it dovetails with what you're saying, which is getting in a more fuller breath, because you're right. I feel like whenever I breathe, I try doing it through the chest.
Yeah.
I try inhaling through my chest rather than through my stomach, but I don't know how to control that.
Yeah. And it's the way like 95, 98% of most people are breathing is with their chest. So just here's what I want you to think about at this stage. You don't need fuller breaths. You don't need more breath. You need more relaxed, slower, and more frequent in-breaths, right? Because breathing up here tenses up the throat. Okay. You've got muscles in your neck called the scalenes that attach to your upper ribs. So when you lift your chest to breathe, those scalenes are tensing up, and that puts pressure directly on your voice. Okay. So when you breathe, just take smaller but more frequent breaths through your mouth. I think for you, the more important thing related to breathing is how much breath is coming out when you make the sound. Okay. We need to get way more breath coming out when you make the sound. Okay. So that's what I had you doing. Hey, hi, ho. I'm using up a whole breath on that one sound. Okay. Right? And that's a concept that I think is just going to change everything for you. All right. Let's skip the resonance part of this, because I think right now with the amount of throat tension you're dealing with, you might find that exercise just a bit frustrating. But you could feel at certain moments today that when you relaxed a little more and when you involved a little more breath, you got a little bit more vibration or resonance in the sound. Am I right?
I wouldn't know, to be honest. I apologize.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned it earlier that you felt more. I forget the term you used. It wasn't resonance, but that's what I interpreted it to mean. Okay. Yeah, it was just, I think you felt the sound more here in the front earlier when we were doing some exercises.
But in general, like I feel like this is where most of the voice generation takes place. I don't feel it in the entirety of my throat. I just feel it here.
All right.
It's never really moved from here, to be honest.
Okay. Well, it doesn't surprise me. Given the amount of tension and the lack of breath support, that doesn't surprise me at all. So what I would normally go to is an experiment where we would try to get some chest vibration in your voice, or vibration in the top of your head, perhaps. But I think that's going to be a bit of a stretch at this stage, and I don't want to just frustrate you. So what we're looking for is to move that, spread that vibration around. So it's not just here, but it's here, and it's here, and it's back here, and it's up here, like your whole body can potentially vibrate with sound. Have a seat.
Thank you.
What I was hoping to demonstrate there in a short period of time was just how relaxation and how breathing and how paying attention to sound vibration can all work together to create a voice that feels better to you, sounds better to us, and communicates really clearly. If you could sense that possibility at any moment there in the past 15 or 20 minutes, that's what I was trying to accomplish. And then hopefully you would have a framework to imagine that reinforcing those skills for 3 months or for 6 months what kind of a potential change that could produce for your voice.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, right now, I think I felt like I got just um, a minimal bit of increased clarity in exchange for more throat and abdominal pain for some reason.
So your throat's sore right now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a sign that something needs to be adjusted. So if we've made it more uncomfortable, then something was a little out of whack there.
Okay.
Um, based on what we did today, I think that you would definitely benefit from some voice training, but I think I would have to change the approach a lot for you. Some things that I might be able to take for granted with the average client. I think you're starting from a place where there's a lot more serious interference in your voice. So maybe I would experiment with straw phonation, things like that. Just ways to get you producing sound in an easier and smoother and more consistent way. If that interests you and you want to experiment with that, I think that maybe we could start with an initial just month of training and see where it goes. But just keep in mind that I wouldn't be putting you through the usual curriculum that I take a student through. I'd be sort of creating something new here.
Like I said, Mr. J, like the point behind my feedback isn't to be inherently negative. The point behind my feedback is to actually point out, hey, is something actually working or not working? Because ultimately, I do want to change.
Okay.
It's not like I'm trying to resist change. Like the whole point of me being here is I want to change.
Okay.
So if something isn't working, I'll be the first to say, hey, I'm not noticing the difference. If you notice a difference, like you're the recipient on this, and you'd notice the difference far more than I would.
Okay.
So yeah, I just don't be disheartened by my feedback. It's just me trying to be authentic. I don't just want to say, hey.
All right. Yep. I appreciate you saying that. And I'm also saying that I'm not trying to, what should I say, turn away business or something like that. But I do want to make sure that it's really important that my client has buy-in to the process, that they have confidence in what I'm bringing to the table. If you feel like, based on what you've experienced today, that I've got something to offer and that we can make some changes here, you need to be as confident about that as I am. So I can tell you that I heard a slight change today, and I think we can make some progress here. But it's not going to be quick, and it's not going to be dramatic. If you're willing to sort of explore that a bit, I don't think you'd be wasting your time. But I don't want you to do it just based on what I say. I want you to feel like this has some promise for you.
I mean, hey, let's try something out before throwing in the towel, I say.
Okay. All right.
I just had one area of concern, if you don't mind me bringing it up.
Go ahead.
Usually, like this week, I was off, so I could like schedule an early session. But most other weeks, I can only make like sessions at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I know.
That's late for me. I could push the 3:30 appointment back to 4. I'd be willing to do that, but I can't push it back much later than 4.
Okay.
Because of the what I have after that, right?
I understand.
Like phone calls and things like that.
Usually, like my work starts at 6:45 in the morning till 3:15.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I would recommend that if you're done at 3:15, you could schedule a 3:30 session, but we would have an understanding that it's going to be 4.
I don't work from home, by the way. I work at a factory, so I have to leave and come back.
You have to get back.
Yes.
Is 4 possible for you?
If I just run out the door and ignore people. No, seriously, look, I'm a supervisor, so all the time, you know how it is. People are constantly coming to me with stuff, and I get inundated with things.
Yeah.
Yes, I know it's ironic for someone like me to be in a position of authority, but stranger things have happened in the world.
Well, and I think it's not just your voice that puts you in a position like that either. Um, okay. I'm going to send you a summary report of our findings today, and it will also have a list of the different programs that are available. And you can have a look at that, decide what seems like a good fit for you. I'm recommending, I think, a month of training just on an experimental basis.
Okay.
And then we can sort of regroup and decide where to go from there. With a schedule like yours, are you going to have any time to practice on your own?
In the afternoons or the evenings, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a
That's going to
workaholic.
be really key.
Like you saw right now, while I was with you, I got a text from my boss while I was talking to you.
Right.
So I can't ever seem to switch work off.
We'll take that into consideration as well, just whether the circumstances of your life will allow you to devote some time to
How much
daily
time?
practice.
Oh, you're talking about daily practice. How much time per day would you say I need?
I'm going to say a minimum of 20 minutes.
Tell you what, unfortunately, especially during COVID, what happened was I allowed work to seep more and more into my life, and that's significantly disrupted my gym schedule. I honestly have been wanting to be more disciplined with going to the gym again, just like I used to. So how about I integrate that with the gym, or would that be a bad decision?
Well, I think at the gym, you're not going to have the privacy that you're going to want for this kind of work.
Okay.
You'll just be too self-conscious in that setting.
Okay. So back from the gym, come here, do my vocal exercise. I can set it up like a calendar schedule every day.
Okay.
Would you like me to send you like a small informal report after every training session?
Um, you could if you want, but I think I encourage people just maybe once a week in between their lessons, they send me a 1 or 2 sentence email just saying, here's what I'm noticing in my practice right now.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be so intense that you're sending it every day.
Okay.
But it is nice just to hear from my students in between their lessons, just hearing how things are going.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I will send that off to you, and then when you make a decision that you're ready to move forward, send me an email. I'll send you the shopping cart link for a 1-month program. And then when you do that transaction, I'll send you the link to the calendar and you can book your lessons.
Okay. Honestly, I'm ready to book ahead.
Okay, then
I don't
I'll
want
send
to
it.
give up right away. Like let's keep going.
Okay, I'll send you the link for the 1 month of training then. And as soon as that goes through, and by the way, that makes this consultation free since you decided today. So the cost of a 1 month training will have a discount for your consultation.
Okay. I hope I didn't come across as difficult or unwilling to learn or anything like that at all. I hope I've left a positive impression. You're a very likable person, Mr. J, and honestly, like, forget the testimonials themselves. I loved our initial interaction so immensely. I genuinely want to work with you. I feel like I can end up somewhere, even if I don't end up going where you had initially perceived. But honestly, I don't think I've come across anyone as capable as yourself with regards to these issues.
That's very kind of you to say that, and I really appreciate you bringing it up. For myself, I'm feeling like this will be challenging,
Okay.
not because of your personality, just because of your voice. I think this is going to be challenging, and so I'm not coming in like, oh yay, let's get on with it. This will be fun. But I'm I'm ready to take you on. So as long as you understand that this will be a bit of an experiment for me to see if we can get through some of those initial hurdles and develop the momentum that we need to move you forward.
If it will make you feel any better, and again, I'm not saying this to bias your direction, so I'm being very cautious with what I'm saying here. I am well aware of the fact that I have inherent imbalances within my body, and I have certain elements of my body that I have yet to tap into. Like, for example, we mentioned this thing about being unfamiliar with my diaphragm, for example. There is something also that I significantly lack during my training that I've noticed for a while now, is that whenever people talk about activating your core, I've never actually felt that. No, 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 no. Please, please. I know it sounds like one of those cliche things people say, but truly, like, when people say that, what I'm actually doing is I'm swiveling at the hips, which by the way, it took me years to be able to do. I still can't actually I can't sit cross-legged, for example. Like there are a lot of elements with my own physicality that I'm unfamiliar with. And I feel like if anything, that would actually end up reflecting on my voice. Like for example, when I stand like this, I know that I am aware now that I have imbalances simply because of the therapist. I went to the physiotherapist who informed me that I had several inherent imbalances and my body had very slowly learned to live with them. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
walking around with them unawares
Mm-hmm.
of that myself.
Mm-hmm.
So with a lot of things that happen, please be aware of that. It's not you, it's me, so to speak.
Yeah, but it's important to know, right? Okay, I need to run, so I will
Absolutely.
send you that link, and then I'll send you the link to the calendar, and look forward to getting started.
Thank you, Mr. J. Have a lovely day.
You do the same. Bye.